she's come a long way, and she continues to flourish in the world. And all I do is just push her and encourage her and keep her going. That's all we can do, because they deserve it. I mean, she's a blessing. She's a big blessing. And that's the least that I can give her for what she's given me.
Hey, this is Arshad from DOCtAKH Health Foods. I wanted to talk a little bit about my journey. I think I'm really excited that you're doing this ride for autism, because when I started the company DOCtAKH 2 years ago, the genesis of this was my son's journey with autism.
I'm Dr. Rebecca Mullican, and I run the Jackson Autism Center. I started it in August 2012.
Hi, I'm Heather Beckvar. I graduated from Malloy College with a bachelor's in music therapy. I became board certified after that and began specializing in working with kids with autism.
I'm Julie Albieri. I'm coordinator for family support services at Life's Work, and one of my programs is the music and art therapy program, and we support kids with autism ages 6 to about 16.
I'm Brooke Cassidy, and I am an art therapist, and I just recently started working with children with autism.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Milan, and I live here in Ville Platte, Louisiana. I have a daughter, Sarah. She's 10 years old. She was diagnosed when she was 4.
Hi, I'm Alicia Fondo, also live here in Ville Platte. My son is now 10. He got the diagnosis just before his 3rd birthday, although we pretty much knew something but right before the age of 2.
My name is Rory Hutter. I'm the Director of Education at VIA at the James C. Vermel School, which is the school component of our program.
My name is Brittany Cuevas, and I'm the Business Director for the Autism Center of North Mississippi here in Tupelo.
My name is Matthew Davison. I'm the Clinical Director here at the Autism Center of North Mississippi.
Awareness. Awareness is the biggest thing. We don't need to overcome autism. We need to overcome the stigma of being confused and change and something that's different from us.
I think what you're doing is incredibly needed. I think the awareness, autism is an epidemic, right? And it's amazing as to how little money is put in from the federal government into this space. When my son was diagnosed, it was 1 in 100. Now it's 1 in 66, right? And that's in 8 years. So this is definitely on an epidemic curve. I think the need for awareness is critical. So anything that we can do to get people aware of the causes, but more importantly, how they can help their kids through the process is critical. Food as a critical enabler to help the kids is important. And just awareness of how to deal with people with autism, right? It's like, I see this all the time. It's like if a kid is throwing tantrums because they're autistic, it's not bad behavior. It's just that the kid can't deal with the environment. And it'd be really great if there's more education given to the public on how to work with people with, who are on the spectrum, how to make them part of society. And so I think if you can do that through your journey of educating people, that's huge. It's so needed.
What's going to happen? People are going to look at me. So I think there needs to be more education and advocacy for families, because they are scared to go to Walmart. They are scared to go to the grocery store. One of the most horrific situations I ever had was a parent told me that she was in the grocery store trying to grocery shop. She had her son with her who has autism. He was, I guess, about 6 years old at the time, and he was humming. That's all he was doing, was just humming. And this lady walked up to her and said, she needed to make him be quiet and blah, 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 blah. And she tried to take that as an educational moment. Well, he has autism and, he can't help it. This is just how he is. And, it wasn't really that big of a deal. He's humming. Well, the lady just kept on with it. And, well, you don't need to bring him out in public. And, you need to keep him home, or he needs to be in an institution and blah, blah, blah. And, the mom was literally crying, telling me about the incident. And it just broke my heart that that's what these families deal with almost on a daily basis. So I think it's just making people more educated and more aware. They think if they see a child having a meltdown, they just think, well, they need to be spanked or whatever. And people don't think, well, maybe they have autism, or maybe they're different, maybe they have special needs. So I think just getting that out there, that give them a break. Ever since I became a parent, I have a completely different aspect on, it just changes your life. You're like, oh. So just having more compassion for families.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's very important for people to be aware of autism, and most importantly is that don't deny yourself into guilt, or don't be in denial. You really have to just take a grab of the diagnosis and get out there and provide your child the best interventions that you can, because that is the hope for them. Because without those interventions, it just becomes more difficult to succeed in school, with whether it's behavior or learning. The earlier you get those interventions in, the better outcome that we've had for sure, and that's what statistics seem to say also. So.
And don't be afraid to ask a parent. If you know a parent that has a child, or parents that have a child with autism, don't be afraid to ask questions. We want to answer because we want to make you more aware of how to be around our child and what our child likes and doesn't like. You can't go up to a child with autism and just touch them. They don't like that. So it's learning those likes and dislikes, and you asking questions that makes you more aware and more curious to find out more about it. And that's what we want. We want people to ask questions. It does not offend us. It does not bother us. We're more than happy to answer, because then it means you care and that you want to be more aware.
Education, advocacy, like what you're doing, is bringing awareness to what autism is. You may go through a store, and I've seen it with my own eyes, a child with his mom, he has autism, and people just staring at him, and you know the signs, but nobody else does, So I think what we should focus on is becoming more aware of what it is, and not changing who they are, because I don't think that's really the fate of what this is all about, I could go into this for hours. It's so important. A lot of people have no idea. They really don't. There's the whole stigma between mental illness and disability and handicap, and a lot of people make that their umbrella term, and that's it. They don't realize that autism is a totally different thing, and it's so important for us to learn more about it, to really figure out what this is about, how we can make the world better for them while we figure out how to live in a world with people who are just a little bit different from us. They're awesome kids, and they're so musical. But I love what you're doing, and autism awareness is one of my top priorities, and I'm so glad you're going across country to bring awareness to it. I think it's fantastic.
I have a daughter, Sarah, she's 10 years old, and the same thing, early intervention. She was diagnosed when she was 4, but I knew really when she was born that something was different, and she was late in all of her developing. Walking, she didn't walk until she was 15 months old, talking later on, and didn't really want any interaction with anybody. But right before she turned 4, that's when I finally took her to a pediatrician and asked for an evaluation with a pediatric neurologist. And when she got her diagnosis, it was very hard, but I knew before she was even diagnosed that that's what it was. I took child development college, so it wasn't something that was new to me. I knew about it. I had studied about it, but to know that it's your child, that it's your own child, it's very heartbreaking, but you know that you have to step up, and that's your child, and you have to take care of them. So with speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, adaptive PE in school, interacting with other children, dance classes, softball, even just interacting with other parents with children with autism has really helped. She has blossomed. She's not like a loner or to herself anymore. She wants to be with other kids. She wants to be with other adults. And even younger children. She is completely different than what she used to be. She didn't want eye contact. That was one thing that was really hard to break her from, making her have eye contact. She would, was always talking to you, and that was one thing that was hard. Going out in public places where there's a lot of people, eventually trying to figure out a way, when we'd go to Walmart, and she would cry because she didn't want to go, because she could hear the buzzing of the lights and the echoing inside the building of all the people in there, and it was just too overwhelming and too loud. And finally realizing, okay, if you want a book, because there were certain books that she loved, and so she would say, okay, can I have a book? Okay, if we get a book, will you be okay? Yes, I'll be okay. And so that was the first thing we would do, was go and get a book, and she would carry it around, and she was fine. It was kind of like a security thing. And then eventually, went to chips and then hot fries, and that's another addiction that she's got that we try to break her of. But she's come a long way, and she continues to flourish in the world. And all I do is just push her and encourage her and keep her going. That's all we can do, because they deserve it. I mean, she's a blessing. She's a big blessing. And that's the least that I can give her for what she's given me.
My son is now 10. He got the diagnosis just before his 3rd birthday, although we pretty much knew something right before the age of 2. He was limited, very limited in his vocabulary in the beginning. With the help of early intervention through occupational therapy and ABA that we did at home, and also services through the school system. He is now thriving. He A's, B's, C's in school. He's in the 5th grade. He passed the LEAP test, which is a very big deal because that is the state test to go from 4th to 5th grade, and it was the regular LEAP test, not a modified version for him. So that was awesome. He has friends. He is at first he was a loner. He wanted to be by himself. Through setting him up through peer interaction, he now has friends, and he's loved by his classmates and supported by his classmates. He likes to play football. He likes to play baseball. He enjoys playing piano. He just came so far through all of the early intervention and therapies that he's had.
My son is now 10. He was diagnosed when he was 2.5. We went down the path of really focusing on the food, made a big difference to him. And we didn't know at that time that 80% of boys on the spectrum, and girls, but more boys, have gastrointestinal problems. When we started healing his gut through gluten-free, dairy-free, no soy, no corn, lower on sugar, lower on processed foods, we found that he just started feeling better. And as a result of feeling better, he started really using the occupational therapy, the speech therapy a lot more. And so the healing the gut was actually healing his mental state and his growth and all of that. And now he's 10, he's in a mainstream class, and his transition it's taken time. It's not an overnight thing, but there's no doubt in my mind that food played a really critical role in him doing that. He was mostly vegan when he was going through the transition, but he's not fully vegan now. I mean, he does eat a little bit of meat, and we try to give him as clean as he wants, but it's still a diet that is quite a bit on the plant-based side of things. But the main focus is unprocessed, as much unprocessed as possible. And that was the genesis. You just have to eat real food, and there's such a scarcity of real food because of this overly processed world of food that we live in, that any opportunity anybody gets to serve real food to the people, there's a great opportunity, there's a great need to do that. So that's sort of my platform. I think you got to be hyper vigilant when you are having a child, because I believe that most of the time, it starts pretty early in life. So it starts pretty much at like birth or right after that. And so if you're careful when the woman is pregnant with the food that she's eating and the environment that she's around, you bring the chances down. Okay? And I think after that, just be careful. Like, one example is I always think we stopped using pesticides on our lawn because we knew there was a direct correlation between pesticides on the lawn and neurological problems, right? So we just decided to do that without really, you don't have to see enough scientific studies to say that pesticides equals autistic rise, right? But pesticides are not great. Great, so the result will be we won't have a great green looking lawn, but so be it, Spend more time buying local organic foods. Maybe unplug the microwave, do a few of those things that are convenient, but are not the best option for health. And I think if you focus more on health and the basis of health, I think the numbers will come down. It's my hunch, but that's kind of what I think will help bring the numbers down.
I feel that there are probably a number of reasons, but I think definitely the environment plays a factor. Genetics may play a factor also, but I'm really concerned with the increase in the numbers of autism, but also the increase in the numbers of ADD, ADHD, several behavior disorders. And it seems to coincide with the fact that we have more genetically processed foods these days, and we don't truly know the effects of what that does to the human body. I can't for sure say immunizations, however I do think there are foreign DNA and other things that are in immunizations that there's not enough research on how it affects the human body and mostly the human brain. I don't think that we are diagnosing it better, but that can be the reason why there's such a rise in numbers. There's definitely something else, and there definitely needs to be more research.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that a lot of it is environment, what we put in our bodies. We've done the gluten and casein-free diets. It's very hard to follow. But with me being gluten intolerant in the last 5 years, sometimes I wonder if maybe it really is something like that. Really no way to tell unless you would track someone from conception to 5 years after birth and see a group of people, because like I was telling you earlier, unless we would go back and from the day we found out we were pregnant and started tracking everything that we ate and everything that we did and everywhere we went from that moment on, there's no way to tell what it was that triggered it or that that happened. I think that it's environmental. I think it's genetic, something to do with our genes somehow, but it also food. I think food has a lot to do with it. I mean, you get on a healthy diet and you start eating nothing but organic food and things that are not processed and all natural. You feel completely different than when you do if you're buying foods with nothing but preservatives, and all it does is just bring you down and weighs you down. And I've done that over the last few years, working out and exercising and everything, and watching what I eat, and you can tell a difference. You tell a big difference. Even juicing. A lot of my friends, and I did it too, I haven't lately, but juicing, but then they say you need to juice with organic fruits and vegetables because, this is stuff that's going directly into your bloodstream. So it has to be something that's pure. It's just very hard to follow because of the expense. But, for the most part, I try to watch what goes into my mouth and my children's mouth and what we consume because it needs to be healthy. But, very limited. We really limit the bad, just like the hot fries. I mean, if I would let her eat hot fries whenever she wanted, she would eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks in between, and nothing but hot fries. And I can't do that. It's a once a week reward for her. So, yeah, but I mean, I really think that a lot of it is what, how we live and our environment and all of that, all combined.
From what I've learned since I've been here, it's that the diagnosis has changed. And so maybe a couple of years ago, people were put into a different category. Their diagnosis was classified differently, and now it's under the autism spectrum disorder. So because of the diagnosis changing, that makes it look like, it's growing and growing. But I know here, it seems like we don't necessarily lean toward a certain cause of like vaccination shots or food, things like that.
I think there's a lot of factors. There can be more people being referred for autism. If a pediatrician now has more checklists and is looking for it, they may refer more families to get tested to find out if their child has autism. There's a lot more awareness with April being Autism Awareness Month. It's getting out there. And then also the changing criteria within the DSM-5 is helping schools being more aware, getting those kids tested so that they can get into special ed and get the help they need. So it's hard to say whether it's something in the environment that's causing more of it or if we're just being more aware of it and it's being diagnosed more often. Just because no one can point to any variable or any group of variables in the environment that's changed that has played a role in an increase in autism. Early intervention is huge. The longer a child goes without therapy, the farther and farther behind their peers they get. So the sooner they can get therapy, the sooner it can be detected at about 18 months to 2 years, and the child gets into therapy, they have a much better chance of recovering and being almost indistinguishable from their peers.
I work with kids basically from ages 2 all the way through adulthood. I've never had to tell a client that I can't see them or I can't work with them, which is exciting to me. I don't want to ever have to turn away anybody. I feel like everybody can make progress, and I can work with everybody. I've got families who drive anywhere from just local all the way to 2.5 hours to come here because there's not much in the area. In Mississippi, there's just not many centers that work with autism, and then outside of just like specific to autism, like speech therapy centers and things like that, they just really, a lot of them don't know what to do with kids with autism. I get a lot of those stories. People are desperate, looking for help for their child with autism, and so that's what I'm trying to do. And part of the reason I wanted to open the center is because I didn't want, in a school system, I had rules and regulations about how much I could help the families, and I only had so many kids that I could help for that year, and I would keep kids for several years, and I felt like I wasn't able to do as much with families as I wanted to do, and I wasn't able to affect as many children, help as many kids as I wanted to. So those were some of the main reasons behind opening my own center. When individuals come to my center, one of the things I offer is ABA, but it's not usually the first approach that that I focus on. I'm really more child-centered and what's going to work for that child. A lot of what I do is child-directed play. I use the CERTS method. So in other words, instead of the child coming in, sitting down at the table and redo tasks, I let the child explore the room, choose what they want to do. We kind of focus the session around what they want to do, and I add in the goals that we're supposed to be working on through what they're trying to do. A lot of it's communication, social skills, and behavior. Of course, I also do have kids who come in and we focus on academics, so it's really just very individualized for each child. In fact, one of my newest clients, they came to me and they said, we already know what our son is deficit in. I mean, he's getting that at school, but we want to come here and we want you to focus on his strengths. And so that's one of my favorite sessions of the week is I get to sit down with this kid and I get to help him be interested in what he's interested in and just push him in those areas, and it's really fun. So yeah, I feel like sensory integration is a huge part for autism, so that's one of the reasons I'm so thankful to have a gym and have a swing that will soon be up, and we incorporate all of that into our therapy sessions. Sensory integration is a huge part. Another huge part for me is communication. I feel like every child or individual can have a way to communicate. We have to figure out how to do that. So one of the main things when I first talk to a parent on the phone or whatever, I tell them that when they come here, it's not just about what I do here. If I see a kid an hour, 2, 3 hours a week here and they don't do anything at home, nothing's going to change. It has to be a full-on approach. It has to be holistic, where I'm doing something here, they're doing the same thing at home. We have great communication back and forth. It has to be that way to see, to see progress. Early intervention is so important. One of the clients I've been working with since the end of April, her little girl turned 2 around March or April, and since I've been seeing her, she's starting to talk. She was nonverbal before. She didn't make eye contact, didn't really play with any toys, and she's doing all those things now. She's starting to repeat words that you say to her. Sometimes she'll say words on her own. If you sing like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, she'll fill in a couple of words here and there. She will sit down and play with a toy appropriately. I mean, her mom is just thrilled to see these little things that she's doing that she didn't do before. Before she was just kind of to herself, and now she's starting to come out of that. From personal experience, I have seen kids who have done absolutely great on the gluten-free, casein-free diet. Their parents swear that it has made a difference. It hasn't. I've never personally seen a child who has been healed from autism from just changing a diet, but definitely behavior changes. And even just moving from a lot of processed foods to a more whole foods diet has made a difference for kids. Sometimes taking out the red dyes and things like that. It doesn't work for every child. I think it's very individualized, just like every child with autism is so individual, that really makes a difference. So I think it's something that works for some kids and then it doesn't work for other kids. So I've definitely seen progress in that area. One of the little girls I work with is kind of in a pre-diabetic stage, and so they've really had to change everything the way she eats. And since she had a couple of rough weeks in there when they took out sugar and things like that and made her have a more whole foods diet, but now she's really adjusting and she's more clear-headed. She's able to focus more. I think it's really making a difference for her. So I definitely think food, what we put in our body, definitely affects, and especially for kids with autism. And they also have, a lot of kids with autism have what's called the leaky gut syndrome, and so what you put in your body is it's really important. I think as Americans we just focus too much on, okay, this is the meat we're going to have, what vegetables are we going to have with it, instead of this is what we're going to have. I think we just focus too much on the meat and then the vegetables as the side instead of the vegetables as the food.
A lot of times nutrition is important for everyone's development. I mean, you feed a typical developing kid a terrible diet and they may have behavior problems. They can have gastrointestinal issues. If you have a child with autism who can't express themselves, tell you that their stomach hurts, and all they can do is tantrum, then yeah, you're going to see a lot more problem behavior out of that child. And if you can fix dietary issues that reduce internal pain, which allow them to start to learn because they're not in pain, then it's possible that a diet can benefit an individual that way. But you can't say that across the board for all children with autism that they need to have a certain diet, because every child is different.
Not all kids are able to express themselves verbally, so by introducing art and music to them, they're able to maybe express themselves or their feelings using the instruments and also the different elements of art. They're able to, a lot of the kids are very tactile and sensory, so they're able to express themselves using the different modalities of the arts. And they're able to make relationships and friendships in different ways with the kids and the staff here.
Music, absolutely. It's funny that you bring up both of those. Music for sure. I've started actually this month to try to have a music kind of a circle time, music and story time, because a lot of the kids respond really well to music. Some of them, even if there's a song that they sing, they can sing a song, but they may not be able to talk. So music is a huge part for a lot of kids with autism. So just trying to incorporate that. The little girl I was just talking about, who's 2.5, she's part of the reason that I've started this, because she's just really interested in music and just becomes almost a different child, really focuses, pays attention when you turn on music or if I sing to her. She's starting to sing a couple of little songs on her own and kind of mix them up. She'll do the wheels on the bus, the wheels on the bus, twinkle, twinkle, like kind of all mixed together. So it's really entertaining.
Autism is an amazing thing to work with, honestly, especially in music, because kids with autism respond so well to it. We all have this innate musical ability that we can really tune into as human beings. So utilizing music for communication goals and socialization goals and musical goals too. We're not teaching music, we're utilizing music to help them reach their individual goals as a human being. And since we all can relate musically, no matter who you are, that you can relate on a social and emotional level through music. So it's a wonderful thing. I love what I do. I mean, it seems little to us, but big to somebody's mother. When I first started working, it was one of my first sessions as a professional. I was working with a child with autism. It was a set of twins, and one of them had autism, and she had no language. Mom had told me from the start, she doesn't speak, she's never spoken, and through the music, she was starting to make choices, just through the music, by pointing or by making some kind of melodic vocalizations, and one day she said the word drum, and obviously freaked out because this was her first word, was drum, because she was in her music therapy session, and she wanted that drum, and she got that drum immediately. So something even so small as 4 letters, but I've also had a lot of experiences, a child who was able to express herself more through lyrics rather than just instrumental work. So she was able to explain how she was feeling just by utilizing the music and the dynamics and the tempo, and really helped her along the way of creating this song about her feelings, since she couldn't verbalize them, but she was able to vocalize. So a lot of different great experiences and goals that have been met through music. Music therapists who are board certified are able to use so many aspects of music to help reach a person's goal. A lot of people may think that music therapy, we're walking into a room and we're singing just a hello song and a couple of fun little Old MacDonald and Grandpa's Farm and ABCs and then a goodbye song, and we're done. But there are little things that people don't catch that we do, that we're watching what their oral skills are like, their oral motor, their motor skills in general. Every moment something is happening, I'm watching every child as often as I possibly can to see if they're responding to music the way I'm looking for them to, using dynamic, which is just the way the music moves, the tempo, the dynamics. So many of the little aspects of music are utilized so purposefully in music therapy. One person may say, hey, I've had this happen to me in a classroom, hey, can you take it down, you're too loud, and I tell them, well, that's what my client needs right now, is for me to be a little louder, be it because of sensitivity to sound, and I'm trying to desensitize this child, whereas this child hates when it's too quiet and starts to get really loud, him or herself, and so utilizing music in these little minor ways that you may not notice, be it a specific key, or like I said before, a dynamic, or the tempo. Every little thing means something in music therapy, and we make sure to use it the proper way, that we know how to help our clients reach their goals. I want them to reach their goal, and sometimes a kid might be tired, like we saw today, one of them, might be a little tired, and long day at school, first week of school, I give it a little leeway, but for the most part, no, I'm focusing on each, even though we're in a group, and it's a peer social group, I'm focusing on each individual child along with the group as a whole, and I think that's important. I mean, we want to focus on, like I said before, everyone with autism is so different, they're all individuals in and of themselves, that you can't treat it as a whole group, as you would with a group of typical kids, where you could really just do the social peer group. And something like this, if they're not on a social level yet, they're not at that developmental stage, you need to focus on them and what stage they're at. So this one might be at this first level of socialization in their development, whereas this one might be on the 3rd level of it, and you need to make sure each one of them reaches their goal before it's the whole group goal that can be met.
And I absolutely love the way that these children respond to the materials that we use, things that are tactile, things that are wet and fun, and the colors, and you just see a different side of them, I think, than what you would see when you're not using art. I think because they enjoy working with the materials, that they have kind of an incentive to be verbal, because if you ask them to ask you for something, they want it, so they want to be more verbal, or at least engaged, you know, looking at you, pointing at things, and but I think, like you said, it's a nonverbal outlet, so you don't have to, there's no demand really to talk, which is nice sometimes for them. It gives them a break, because all day I'm sure they're being asked to say this and ask for that, and it's a little bit of a break, and it's fun, but it's also very useful, I think, in terms of engaging with others in a group, and then using materials appropriately, and a lot of the times not so appropriately, which is fun too. You know, it's not like this miraculous, you know, change. It's just little moments of time, over time, that are very rewarding. You know, I'm sure the parents see it too.
Actually, yes, right next door, we are opening something called the Family Center for Autism, which is it should open in January, and it's basically a YMCA for kids with autism and their families. So we're going to have 60 programs running a week. Zumba classes, yoga, sporting classes, art classes, music classes. And this is a place that families can come and just enjoy being in the space with their kids. We're going to have workshops for families, family nights, teen night. We're going to have a rec center. There's going to be a spa for families to come get a massage, as well as kids to come get haircuts, because that's, you know, a big challenge for a lot of the kids. We're going to host birthday parties, sweet 16s. Pretty much anything you can think of, we're going to have it at the center next door.
Our whole thing is about giving back to communities that, you know, we have had some relationship with, whether that's food, whether that's sports, whether that's developmental disability.